A cheerleading captain hopes to lead her squad to a national championship with an original routine. Listen as we chat about ladylike toothbrushing, meeting girls at yoga, and how to qualify for regionals. Be aggressive. Be aggressive as we find out if Bring It On stands the test of time.
Test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today? James says gladiator with a glutton. Alan says as a father, blah blah. It's the test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today? Test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Test of Time, the podcast where we talk about older movies and see if they still stand up today, if they stand the test of time. I'm James Brief, and joining me as always is my buddy and pal, the director of this podcast, Alan Noah. How you doing, Al?
I am doing very well, thank you, James. And as director, I would just like to say that this is not a democracy, it's a cheerocracy, or a podocracy?
A podocracy, yeah, I think that's what it is.
Cheerocracy sounds better, though.
Kirsten Dunst, the way she says that it's fantastic. We'll get to that movie, but it's the beginning of September when we're recording this episode, 2025, and I don't know what it is, but my calendar circadian rhythm is still centered around the school year. I still find there's something a little bit kind of sad about the beginning of September, and seeing back to school sales still make me a little bit sad, more like the summer is ending and like, why is that? Why am I still centered around school?
I don't know. That's fucking weird, man. You don't have kids. For parents, when it's back to school time, it's a happy time and a sad time because on the one hand, it's annoying because, now it's back to school and early mornings and packing lunches and after school practices and all of those things. But also it's kind of like, well, thank God, now there's a structure and a routine and the kids are out of the house for the day. So it's kind of a mixed bag for parents. But for you as a single, childless 45-year-old, I don't get it, man. Other than just being sad that the summer ends. I get that. That makes sense. That's universal.
Maybe it's because I just spent like most of my life in school. I mean, there were so many grades that I did the math once and I went to 26th grade.
Okay.
I think it just became completely ingrained to me. It didn't end when I was 18 or 21.
But wait, when you're in med school, you have summers off?
You only have the first summer off, and you're pretty much going straight from second year to third year and third to fourth. I don't know. It's just centered around school year, man.
I don't know what to tell you. Maybe just go and buy a Trapper Keeper or something. Maybe that'll make you feel better. Maybe not. I don't know. All right, well, let's talk about Bring It On. I saw that the movie was celebrating its 25th anniversary. Last week, we were talking about But I'm a Cheerleader. And, this is another cheerleader-focused movie. Very, very different from last week's movie, obviously. But for anyone who hasn't seen it, this movie is about Torrance Shipman, the newly elected captain of the cheerleading squad at Rancho Carne High. Which, by the way, means meat ranch. And the team is the Rancho Carne Toros. It's very, very weird. Whatever. Determined to lead her team to a 6th national title, Torrance is horrified when she discovers that the squad's past success was due to the fact that they stole their cheer routines from the East Compton Clovers, a talented inner-city squad. Torrance insists that her squad learn a new routine before regionals, but the choreographer they hire teaches them the same routine that he's taught to other schools. So it's up to Torrance and her fellow cheerleader Missy to come up with a totally unique routine on their own. They perform well at nationals, but come in second to the Clovers. However, Torrance is happy with the knowledge that her squad competed fairly. So I assume that this movie was at least a modest hit because I know there were a bunch of direct-to-video sequels. So I guess it did okay, decent, good.
Oh, it actually did fantastic. I mean, released on August 25th, 2000. It opened at number 1 with $17.2 million. It was at number 1 for 2 weeks in a row. And it ended up with $68 million domestically, $90 million worldwide on an $11 million budget. You're right. It spawned. It didn't spawn like Bring It On universe because I don't think these are related films.
A Cheeriverse?
Yeah, I don't think there was a Bring It On-verse, but there were many Bring It On films. There were 6 more sequels for a total of 7 in the franchise.
Wow.
The names are Bring It On, All or Nothing, In It to Win It, Fight to the Finish, Worldwide Cheer Smack, and Bring It On, Cheer or Die.
Worldwide Cheer Smack is awful. It was hashtag Cheer Smack, so I guess that means something in the movie. Cheer or Die is a horror movie. Like they kind of did a genre swap.
Right.
Without knowing that, it's like, why Cheer or Die? And then when you find out it's a slasher movie, like, okay, I guess that makes sense. When the movie starts, right out of the gate, I was like, I hope this is a dream sequence, because it starts with the cheer squad. They're doing a routine, but it is very cringy, just in like the way that they're talking about themselves and they're introducing themselves and how cool they are and how hot they are. I was like, this is not how cheers go. And I was just hoping that it was a dream sequence, because otherwise I was like, this is going to be in some kind of parallel reality thing. But it's a dream sequence.
It's interesting because I remember thinking that this is a little too on the nose as exposition. Like this mean girl, Big Red, like she's kind of a bitch and she's mean. And then when you realize it's a dream, it goes from actually a really stupid scene to actually, that was kind of clever. I actually said this out loud. I was watching this with my girlfriend and I was like, oh, that's how she sees Big Red. And I was actually just saying this stupid stuff out loud. Like it went from being stupid to smart. So I like that.
It's good exposition. It's also very sexual, the way that they're doing these cheers. And there is a decent amount of that in this movie. Like at the car wash scene, that is very, very sexual. They're literally rubbing their breasts on the cars. When they're doing the auditions, there's a girl who is basically doing like a striptease dance, like crawling on the table. But this movie is rated PG-13, and parts of it are either wholesome or supposed to be wholesome. So it kind of goes back and forth in tone, I thought.
I think it's a perfectly appropriate PG-13 film. It's not PG because it has innuendos. Yeah, it's a car wash scene, whatever. But I didn't think anything went over the top. I mean, there's innuendos that I don't think little kids, if they're watching it, I think it would be totally fine for a younger kid to watch it. They don't totally understand all the small little jokes. Like there's a joke that kind of implies that one of the male cheerleaders, the straight male cheerleader is like fondling one of the girls while he's lifting her up.
Fondling? That's a very nice way of putting it. He's fingering her without her consent. That is like fucked up. The way they bring it up is a joke of, oh, well, sometimes I just kind of let my finger wander a little bit. Tee-hee-hee-hee. And then the other guy who's in the car and the 2 girls are like, oh, you're so naughty. Like, no, that's assault.
It is. I thought that her reaction implied that this is something they've done before.
That what was something they've done before?
That the 2 of them have done that before. It kind of seemed like she was not surprised that it had happened.
Oh, so you're saying like they're a couple and they have fooled around.
Everything, but they're a couple. I think they probably fooled around before.
Even still, that doesn't make it okay to just do it in the middle of a cheer.
Of course not.
I don't know, man. I don't think that's implied at all.
For argument's sake, yeah, you could say they are a couple, and he absolutely did that inappropriately. And of course, you don't touch someone that, even though you've like done stuff with them before, you don't do it during a routine.
Right.
The one thing about that guy, there's actually, when you see in the final scene, there's like 6 or 7 male cheerleaders on the team, but really this movie only focuses on 2 of them, one who is straight and one who is gay. And the straight male, it seems that he is totally hooking up. And I remember when we were in college, there was like the ballroom dancing that you could take for, remember you could take that for like phys ed?
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember people taking it and they're like, oh yeah, it's like all girls and me. And I remember thinking, oh, that's a very smart way, not in like a creepy way, but it's like if you do something that like, most men aren't doing, like you can do yoga, dude. Like yoga's a great thing you could do. And bonus, like if you don't know where women are hanging out, like maybe you find a nice woman there. Like the straight bullies on the football team are doing the cliche like, oh, you stupid cheerleader, even though this guy is like stretching these girls and like these football players themselves losers and they can't score any points. But I thought that was cool that not just him bring like, the gay guy on the cheerleading team, but they had a totally straight guy on the cheerleading team.
I agree with you that it's cool that the movie shows a straight male cheerleader and a gay male cheerleader. But what the football guys say to both of them is not, I forget what you said, like, oh, you stupid cheerleader. They throw the F word around a lot. Also in this movie, they throw around the D word a lot. And to be clear, I'm not talking about fuck and dick. I am talking about the slurs for gay men and women. And it's not only that it's the jerk, asshole football guys who say the F word. When they're in the car and they're talking with both of the guys, they say that the football players always question their sexuality. And then Missy says, well, what is your sexuality? Jan, the straight guy, says, I'm straight. And then Les, the gay guy, says, I'm, well, controversial. And then Missy responds by saying, oh, so you speak F word? Like, whoa, holy shit, that is not okay. The way it's framed, the way everyone reacts to it, it's not an insult. It's meant to be playful. I think what they wanted to say is, oh, you're gay? Cool, whatever. But that is not the word that she uses. And then they go and start insulting some of the other female cheerleaders and start asking if they're D words. The casual homophobia really, really rubbed me the wrong way.
My guess is that Missy is saying that word as if she's trying to say, oh, I'm an ally. I could say this word. And I get it. It's an absolute test of time thing. They would not have written that line today to be like that. Or I'm guessing in any of the sequels, the 7 sequels, no one uses the F word that way if there's a gay cheerleader.
I hope not.
But then again, I think it's perfectly appropriate for the football players to say it because, I mean, let's be real. That word, of course, is used on the playground still today. Of course it is. And in adult world, too. And these football players would probably say it. Maybe even one of them is gay themselves, and they're so trying to prove to everyone they're not gay, but they're the ones that say it so much. Who knows the reason? But it absolutely is definitely said today, and it's said by the bad guys here.
I'm not saying it's unrealistic that the asshole jock would say it. I just feel like the nice characters that we like shouldn't also say it.
Right.
And if the asshole jocks do say it, then there should be some comeuppance. Someone should yell at them. They should learn a lesson. I mean, really, their only comeuppance is they lose, but there's really no consequence to it. And while we're talking about things that are, I guess, problematic, a big part of this movie is cultural appropriation. The white kids have done this cheer. They've won 5 championships, and they stole the routine from the black kids. Honestly, it's the opposite of problematic that the movie addresses this, because that is a thing that has happened, that continues to happen. There's something that is popular in the black community. It's created in the black community, and then some white person steals it and then blows up. They become popular because it's a white person doing it. And I like that this movie addresses that. I like that this movie calls that out. I like that Torrance is adamant right from the get-go when she finds out that the routines were stolen. Okay, we can't use them anymore. We have to come up with our own routines. But I do feel like at the end of the movie, it kind of sort of becomes like a retcon thing where at the end, they're like, oh, guess what? This is a movie about 2 rival cheer squads, one white and one black, but it's really not. Like, the black characters, they have far less screen time. And I'm not counting minutes or anything like that, but we get to know Torrance and Missy and their families and their love life and their school life. The black characters are barely in it. We just don't spend any time with these characters. I saw that Gabrielle Union said that there was a lot more footage of the Clovers that they shot and they put in the trailer for this movie, cynically, just to get more black people to show up and see the movie. And then they cut all of that footage from the movie, which is so fucked up. That's like people who are marketing the movie not paying any attention to the actual lesson of the movie. Like, ugh, that's shitty.
That's interesting. Interesting that there was a lot more footage of it, because Gabrielle Union, I think, is so good in this film. I think she absolutely stands out.
When they don't have enough money to go to nationals, Torrance finds out and then decides that she's going to pay for them to go to nationals. And she asks her father for the money. And then she shows up and hands the check to Isis, and Isis rips it up. Isis is a Gabrielle Union's character. I really like that, because that is taking that white savior trope and saying, fuck you. We're not going to do that.
Right.
And I like that. I appreciated that Isis ripped up the money and was like, no, I'm going to get my squad there without your help. It's kind of a loose thread that Torrance got her dad to sponsor this other team, and then nothing ever happens with that. I think they could have fixed that with a single line of dialogue, whatever. But Paulette, the talk show host that does give them the money, very clearly an Oprah stand-in. It is also kind of a trope, though, that the kids at the black school are poor. They don't have the money to go to the championship. I feel like what the movie is doing is kind of dipping their toe in this idea of socioeconomic inequality, but then just kind of pretty quickly retreating from it. Torrance's daddy has money. That can solve everything. Hey, we don't want your white money. Okay. And then, like, the problem is solved by some other rich benefactor. Yes, it's this woman, Paulette, who has ties to the school and the community, and that's great. But it feels like it's a very superficial way of approaching this real world thing. I kind of just shrugged at that.
You know, it's weird because usually high school sports are like you just take one of the local yellow buses to the high schools near you.
Yeah.
But you actually have to travel to Orlando to compete in these things.
Wasn't it Daytona?
Or wherever it is. I mean, that's an enormous expense for all these people. So it's just certain schools aren't going to be able to do it.
Right. But let's talk about the love story. In the beginning of the movie, Torrance has a boyfriend. He goes off to college, but they're going to make this long distance thing work. Damn it. And of course they're not. You know it's going to fall apart. He's a douchebag. He's cheating on her. He doesn't believe in her. After regionals, when they're caught doing the same dance as the other squads, he says, you're a good cheerleader, but maybe you're just not cut out to be captain, which is, of course, the worst thing he could say. He doesn't believe in her, but you know who does? Cliff, Missy's brother. Now there's a sweet heartthrob of a love interest, I guess.
Yeah, I like Cliff. I think Jesse Bradford does a really good job in this film. I'm surprised he didn't become a thing. You know, I'll bet you he was in the running for a bunch of other things that eventually were like Tobey Maguire or something.
He was the male lead in that movie Swim Fan, which I've never seen, but I do remember girls our age being into it. And I think a part of that was him. Like, he was so dreamy in that movie.
Yeah, I thought he was good in this film. Aaron, right? That's the boyfriend's name.
Yeah.
He doesn't kiss her in the Jeep when she gets dropped off, and he like turns his cheek away, and I'm like, oh, he's gay. He's like not only straight, but he cheats on her. He's like a campus slut. He's cheating on her with like all these women, and I didn't really understand that character. I wish he didn't exist in the entire film. She doesn't need to have a boyfriend in the beginning. I think the reason it works well with Cliff is not because she thinks that, oh, he's a better guy than my current guy. I think it works better because it's a Romeo and Juliet thing. He's like this punk Ramones shirt wearing guy, and she's the pretty cheerleader. That's the love story that I think is a lot more believable to see the transition from that to them falling for each other. I just thought Aaron's entire role was I didn't like it. I didn't like that entire character.
He's there to just serve as a contrast to Cliff, to have a love triangle, to have there be that moment where they don't get together when they should get together, but it just has to be prolonged till
That's
the
why he's
end of the
there.
movie.
Right.
That's his function. I agree with you. He's not an interesting character. It's very, very predictable once you realize that he is in fact straight, because yeah, they do toy with the fact that maybe he's gay.
But the love story, I think the toothbrushing scene, I think is fantastic. The way that Kirsten Dunst, she puts her hand up and like makes it so that he can't see her spitting because she wants to be a little bit ladylike, but then she doesn't the second time. She's already kind of getting used to it.
Right.
I also just thought the scene was very well acted because I was watching the scene and halfway through I realized they're not looking at mirrors. They're looking at like a camera crew and like, you know, some guy maybe eating a sandwich in the background. And that's my favorite scene in the film.
Yeah, it's cute. It's flirty. It's innocent. It's sweet.
Then there's the Spanky scene, or sorry, Sparky. Sparky, Polakowitz. The girls are caught stealing all the Clover's routines, and they decide they're gonna go on their own. But it's only like 3 weeks to nationals, so they can't make one up on their own, even though they eventually do. So Aaron gives the bad advice for them to hire this choreographer who turns out to be a con man who just sells the same exact routine to every single high school that hires him. He's the eccentric character in the teen film.
Yeah, but where's the coach? They're a cheerleading squad that's won 5 national championships, and they don't have a coach? Right. Like, that's not how high school teams work.
That's a fantastic point. Where the fuck is
the
coach?
There's no coach. There's a captain, and that's cool, but there should also be a fucking coach. Like, if the Rancho Carne Toros, if the Bull Meat Ranch had a cheerleading coach, then this movie doesn't exist. None of the plot works in any way, shape, or form, because that's where they would get their choreography. So I get why there is no coach character, because there can't be. Also, though, yeah, that is a glaring fucking plot hole. Also, by the way, I'm not an expert on cheerleading, but this whole idea of stealing routines, don't all cheerleaders do some of the same routines? Like, everyone does be aggressive, be aggressive. Like, some of these things are just universal, right?
You're mistaking the pep rally stuff versus the competitive cheering. They even say, they're like, oh, the Friday night games, like, that's practice for us.
Yes.
Like, that's where we like stretch out, do all these routines and practice tossing each other in the air.
Right.
But it seems to be, yeah, that's where they're going to do the defense, all that crap.
Right. Sideline cheer is very different from competitive cheer. Totally different things.
This movie is the first time I ever learned any of that stuff. I never knew any of that.
Oh, okay. My daughter's looking into joining cheerleading this school year, so I've learned a little bit of it. Also, the Clovers know that Big Red stole their cheers because she showed up with a video recorder, with a tape recorder. In the year 2000, if someone shows up with a camcorder, that's a noticeable, out of the ordinary thing. Nowadays, it would be much easier to video record someone on the sly because everyone's holding up their phone at all times.
You're right. You know, there's another big plot hole that I was thinking, and that is basically Sparky's routine is horrible. It's terrible.
Right.
How does it get all of these people to the regionals? Or is regionals just something that you just get to enter and then that's it? Or do they have to do something good to get to regionals?
It's unclear. I mean, I sort of am thinking of it in the way that they did it on Glee, which I watched for the first couple of seasons, but it's like there's regionals and state and then nationals and internationals. There's always just another bigger geographic region. And so, you know, you have to win one to get to the next one. They also parodied that on an episode of Community in a way that was really funny. But like, how do you get into the first one, the lowest one? Probably pay an entry fee or just apply. I would imagine it's easy to get into that first round.
Right, because I guess the Clovers, they got into the regionals, so I guess the money wasn't a problem there.
Right. Going back to Sparky, he's doing a lot of body shaming. He calls out one girl for having a huge ass when she does not. He tells everyone that they're on a diet, effective immediately. Why? Well, because when you throw people in the air, fat people don't fly as far or something. I forget the exact line.
Yeah.
And like, in a way, you can just kind of write it off as, okay, yeah, he's an asshole character, so he would say something like that. But also just kind of a shitty thing to put that out there, that these young girls are going to be judged for their bodies. And that also comes up when they get to nationals, when the announcer makes a really creepy comment about, of course, I'm interested in cheerleading because it's young girls in short skirts or something like that. I was like, whoa, if this is the TV announcer, he should not be saying that.
Oh, absolutely. And, I agreed with you completely about Sparky until a blink and you miss it moment during the Sparky montage. He pops pills. I don't know if you noticed that part. So he's on something. I do love the test of time thing when he says that girl's ass is so big, it should get its own website. Yeah. Because that's completely like late 90s. Like today it would have been like, that ass is so big, it has its own Instagram account with 1 million followers. It wouldn't be a website.
Yeah, you're not wrong, but there are still websites, so it's not the most egregious thing. It's not like if he had said your ass is going to have its own Friendster profile or something. But yeah, at nationals, I was expecting the Clovers to win. Frankly, if the Toros had won, I feel like that would have been really just awful. Not because they were stealing the Clovers' routines, not even because their national routine is bad. It's not. It's really fucking good. I think the Clovers are better, but what the Toros do is very, very impressive. And it shows that all of the things that Torrance said they were going to study comes into it. They're watching these old musicals and they're learning about swing dance, which was a big trend at the late 90s, turn of the century, turn of the millennium thing. I did also think that there should have been more of an inspiration from Cliff, because Cliff likes punk. He's wearing a Clash shirt and Torrance says, who are they? Because she doesn't know the Clash, because why would she? But he does, because he's a cool punk rocker. I thought there was going to be more punk rock in their final dance. There's just like a tiny little bit, whatever, not a big deal. But had the Toros won, that would have been anticlimactic and shitty because they aren't the best team. And I think that it is the right thing for the story for Torrance to learn the lesson that it doesn't matter if you win or lose. What matters is that you compete with integrity, which she does. And she's perfectly happy with second. She says that second feels like first.
Yeah, it's a great line.
That is a good line. That's a good lesson. And I like the way that it ended.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. You think of the alternate universe where someone writes that the Toros win. And not only would it be anticlimactic and like, but do you realize the scene that would have to be written? Isis would come over and tell Torrance, you know what? You brought it and you won. Not because you stole, because you guys were the best. It would have been so bad.
Awful.
Because either way, the Toros did a fantastic routine. And the judges even do say it was like the closest decision ever. It could have really gone either way. But for the movie's purpose, it was so much better that it was the Clovers. Because they need the win.
And the Clovers are the Toros' competition. They are their rivals, but they are not enemies. The Clovers are not Cobra Kai from Karate Kid.
Or the Hawks and the Mighty Ducks.
Yeah, they are not the bad guys. They are not the villains of the story. Really, who is the villain of the story? I don't know, maybe Big Red, Aaron, racism and class differences in general. I don't know. But you hit it on the head there, James. To watch a scene where Isis and the Clovers walk away from nationals dejected because they lost to the white kids who had stolen their routines, that would have been really, really fucking terrible. So I'm glad the movie ended the right way. But James, what do you think about Bring It On? Does the movie stand the test of time?
I think this film it's one of these teen films that shouldn't be as good as it is. No, this is not one of these brilliant films that's a diamond in the rough. But my guess is that if I were to binge all 7 of these Bring It On films, I think this film would be by far the best one. The thing that I really like about this film is that I know nothing about cheerleading. I knew nothing about it. I thought that they were the people that just went with you to like basketball and football games and like not any of the sports that I played. Also, I learned it's not gymnastics, it's not dancing, and it's a very difficult thing to do at that competitive level. So
Sure.
I appreciate that it brought me into that world without having to do too much hand holding there.
Oh, you wish you could hold hands with a cheerleader.
But I thought Eliza Dushku was great, Jesse Bradford, and this is probably the film that launched Kirsten Dunst to the bigger things, and eventually of course Spider-Man. In my opinion, that's what made her an A-lister. But this is the film that I probably learned her name. I just think the film it's very charming. I think the lesson is good at the end. I like the ending. I actually didn't think automatically the first time watching it that the Clovers would win. I didn't know which way it would go, but I didn't think it was obvious, and I was glad that they went that way because it's the better ending. And overall, the movie just works. It's a tight 90 minutes or so, and it stands the test of time. It's funny and well acted. What do you think, Al? Does 2000s Bring It On stand the test of time? And feel free to share any of your thoughts on the other 6 films that you might have been watched yesterday.
I watched none of them, nor will I ever. Do you ever see that thing on social media where someone says something that's just a little off, and then people will respond and say, "You're so close to getting it"? I feel like this movie is so close to getting it. It brings up this idea of cultural appropriation. That's great, but then it completely shortchanges the black characters. At Nationals, there's a moment where the gay guy cheerleader flirts with another gay guy cheerleader. It's just a sweet moment. It's just innocent flirting. It's a meet cute. The fact that it's 2 guys doesn't matter. Yeah, you got it. The movie nailed it. But then there are so many homophobic slurs in the movie, and there are moments where, oh, these guys are kids. They're high school kids. When Torrance is talking about Missy, she says, she's the poo, as in she's the shit, like meaning she's good. But she says the poo because she's a sweet, innocent kid. But then there's like really sexy, risque stuff with them rubbing their tits on the cars at the car wash, and guys are videotaping them and drooling over them. I feel like the movie is close. It's really close to getting it, and it just falls short. And it's a shame because I think that there is really good stuff in here, including the ending. The ending is great. I think the movie ends on the totally right note. We've seen a lot of teen movies on this podcast that are way, way worse, where there's just a lot more shit that is homophobic and sexist and just downright terrible and awful and would not fly in any way today. And this movie doesn't have a ton of that, but it does have enough. Too much, I would say. And I think that if you were to remake this movie now, it wouldn't just be, doing a Control R in the script and replacing all of the F words and D words and just getting rid of the guy who assaults his female cheerleader because he thinks it's funny to finger her when she's up in the air. You would have to make a lot of big picture changes. You'd have to spend a lot more time with Isis and the Clovers. You'd have to get to know those characters. You'd want to get to know these characters. I wanted to get to know those characters. I wanted to spend more time with them. Honestly, I feel like that's the more interesting story. The underprivileged kids who win at nationals as opposed to the super privileged kids who cruise into nationals every year, which is a more interesting story. It's the underprivileged kids. So even though this movie does get a lot right, I'm going to say that it does not stand the test of time.
One more person from this film that I feel has to be mentioned is the director, Peyton Reed.
Oh, yeah.
He's probably today known for the Ant-Man movies. I'm surprised you don't know what he also directed.
How do you know I don't know what he also directed?
Then name it.
He also directed... No, I don't know, actually.
Well, he directed a short-lived 13-episode series from 1997 called The Weird Al Show.
Oh, how about that?
He directed all the episodes of that whole series. Have you ever seen it?
I have it on DVD right behind me, dude. What are you talking about? Of course.
I assumed you had, but you don't talk about it. You talk about UHF a lot. You never reference that. So I didn't know if you knew about it.
Oh, yeah. This is totally random, but there's a line where one of the Clovers says she wants to beat these Buffys down, and Eliza Dushku was Faith on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Claire Kramer was one of the other Toros. She was also on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I think that was a deliberate nod to that show. Well, that's going to do it for us this week. Next week, we're going to be talking about a movie that is very different from Bring It On, Dog Day Afternoon. That movie is celebrating its 50th anniversary. I've heard of it, but I've never seen it. Have you ever seen Dog Day Afternoon?
I have not. It's one of those 70s films.
Well, yeah, it's the 50th anniversary, so it came out in 75. Good job doing basic math. But I'm looking forward to that episode. In the meantime, we want to hear from you. We are at Festive Time Pod on Facebook, X, Instagram, and Threads. You can find all our episodes on YouTube. We're not on SoundCloud anymore. I hope that doesn't bother anybody. SoundCloud sucks. Whatever. And we'll see you next time, everybody.
Bye.